Hey everyone, welcome back to a Modern Nonprofit podcast. Today I have my new friend Marc Pollick with the Giving Back Fund. Marc, thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to dive into this conversation about your organization and how you help other organizations. Marc, thanks for being on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
So your organization is a little unique, and oftentimes in these conversations, we just jump right into topics, right? I think first and foremost, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the Giving Back Fund. You are a nonprofit that, helps other nonprofits. You're a connector, if you will. I'd love to hear a little bit before we dive into the conversation, more about you and how you came to this vision or idea, and tell us a little bit more about the Giving Back Fund.
Sure. Well, first, I'll tell you a little bit about me. When I came out of graduate school, this would have been a very unlikely career for me because I'm trained to do something very, very different. That if I gave you or your listeners 10,000 guesses and they didn't know, no one would guess what my first career was. I am a Holocaust scholar who spent more than 20 years in the academic field of Holocaust studies. I did 3 graduate degrees with a man named Elie Wiesel, who won the Nobel Peace Prize and is a fairly well-known survivor and author and professor. And I created a foundation for Elie around the time that he won the Nobel Peace Prize. And that foundation, when you win a Nobel Peace Prize, you become pretty well known. There just aren't that many Nobel Peace Prize winners in the world. And so I learned from that just how powerful the celebrity that winning a Nobel Peace Prize brings to you, and that could be leveraged on behalf of a cause. And in Elie's case, it was human rights around the world. And that leveraging of celebrity that I originally did with Elie Wiesel made a deep impression on me. And several years later, I actually came across the idea of doing what I was doing for Elie, for anybody who had both wealth and celebrity, that you could link those two things together and leverage both on behalf of whatever someone's cause is. So, for example, with Michael J. Fox, who is very well known and who has Parkinson's, he's able to leverage the fact that he's a beloved actor, but who also has Parkinson's, to be the face of that disease. And that has resulted in a wonderful foundation that he has trying to cure Parkinson's. And I could give you many examples of that, but the short answer is that what led me from Holocaust studies to what I'm doing now was figuring out, in working with Elie Wiesel, how powerful that leverage is in leveraging a celebrity, because a celebrity has a spotlight on him or her, and taking the spotlight off the person and putting it on a cause. And so I went from doing that with one person to creating an organization that would do it for an infinite number of people. And in 1997, we're about to celebrate our 25th anniversary at the Super Bowl in February. In 1997, in Boston, Massachusetts, where I was living, I created the Giving Back Fund to do just that.
What a cool story. So interesting, too. Yeah, I can absolutely see where the spotlight could immediately elevate causes and passion projects and those sort of things. And what a great tool to be able to do that. Speaking of kind of these people of influence, and it's so interesting because even now in this modern world, you can become a person of influence very quickly, right? With social media and just media in general. It kind of makes you think, what all the good that we can do in the world with just such an elevated platform to immediately just be well known and to bring or highlight special causes. I actually had an interview with a woman that kind of did something similar. She's an influencer on social media, and not necessarily an author or an actress or anything like that, but she was able to elevate causes and really use that as a fundraising platform. So that's really fascinating. Speaking of kind of athletes or celebrities or other high net wealth individuals, I think the average person has not actually come in contact with these sorts of people, right? The average person probably listening, or at least the average clients that we work with, don't typically get their funding from high net wealth individuals. They're usually special events or fundraising opportunities. And of course, every nonprofit is always interested in major giving and finding individuals that can help elevate their platform. I'm just really curious from your perspective, Marc, how are these individuals that you work with that are really significant peoples of influence? How do they give? What are their giving patterns? What do they like to give for? Are they the same? Are they different than the average person? I'm just curious at this point.
So they are. I realize this is a podcast, so usually I say, what I'm going to tell you, don't repeat, because it's sort of a negative statistic instead of a positive statistic, but it is a true statistic. And it's one that I first tried to change the culture of celebrity in America in several ways over the years, and have not succeeded in it. But I'm going to tell you this statistic because it's true. And it's one that might surprise some of your listeners, and it may surprise you as well. And it certainly surprised me. When I started the Giving Back Fund, I had no experience with celebrities, with athletes and entertainers. My celebrity was Elie Wiesel, who's a very different kind of celebrity than Britney Spears, who I later worked with. But they're very, very different. And so with no experience at all with celebrities, other than that they were influential and wealthy. If you're a celebrity in America today, you're wealthy. They go hand in hand. The thought that I had is that if a celebrity wanted to do good in the world and they wanted to start a foundation and they were wealthy and they cared about something, that of course they were going to fund it. Why would you care about something and have a lot of money and not fund it? Well, to my great surprise, I found out that the vast majority of celebrities who want to start foundations and want to do something do not fund it with their own money. And that percentage is very high. It's about 97%.
Wow.
97% of all celebrities do not fund their own foundations with their own name on it, with their own money. And you might say, why is that? And the answer is because in America, celebrities get almost everything for free. I guarantee you, if you had the pleasure of going out to lunch somewhere with Oprah, wherever you would go, the owner of the restaurant would come over and say, "Oh my God, you're Oprah, you're here. Can I take a picture with you?" And he would comp, or she would comp, her lunch. Now, she could afford to pay for the lunch, but she would be comped. And in almost every case, that is the case. And so we've built a culture in America where celebrities often don't have to pay for things. And when they come to philanthropy, they realize that they can leverage their name, if they're famous, to get their fan base and others and corporate America to put money into a cause that they care about. We mentioned just off the air, Michael J. Fox, and his Parkinson's Foundation. And so because he's so beloved, millions of people contribute to that foundation because they know who he is. Well, unfortunately, the vast majority of celebrities say, well, if I can get other people to give, then I don't have to. Now, the problem with that, and you might say, well, as long as somebody's giving and people are benefiting, what's the difference? And the problem with that is transparency and authenticity. That a celebrity would never say to you, listen, I would love for you to give to my foundation. I care about it so much and the cause is so important to me. I just want you to know that I'm not giving. I'm wealthy, but I'm not giving, but you should give. How would that be as a pitch? You would not give to that foundation. You would say, you're wealthier than I am and you're not giving. But they don't say that. The vast majority, 97%, don't say that. They simply hang a shingle and say, I'm starting the X, Y, and Z Foundation. I'm not going to call out names, but I could, but I won't do that. And the public will give because they love that celebrity. And so when I started the Giving Back Fund and saw this happening, I apologize, there's a puppy in the background. I hope she doesn't.
No worries.
When I saw this happening, I thought, well, this isn't right. If you're going to start, I'm not the philanthropy police. You don't have to give. You don't have to do a foundation. But if you're going to start one and you're wealthy and you care about whatever the mission is, then you should give some of your own money. And when they weren't, that was a real eye-opener for me. So we did several things to try to change the culture in America. And if you want, we could get into that later. But none of the things that we tried, and they were major things on a worldwide level, it didn't change the culture. And so we changed, Einstein's theory of insanity. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, get the same result. So we changed to just work with the 3%. And we'll only work with someone who actually, I don't say how much you should give, but you should make a meaningful gift. If you want to do philanthropy and you're asking others to give, make a meaningful gift yourself. Otherwise, there's something inauthentic about it.
Yeah. Wow. That is shocking. Although shocking in some ways, but not surprising, I guess. I think you're right. I could see that where, especially celebrities, they can, license their name for anything, right? And not actually, whether it's on businesses or clothing or, other merchandise or lots of initiatives, right? And I could see that where from their perspective, by leveraging my name, this mission is going to benefit anyway. Do I really need to give? Yeah, that's really fascinating though, that percentage. I guess a percentage surprises me. The idea of it doesn't entirely surprise me maybe, but
it surprised me too.
So yeah, that's interesting. So you said you work with about, the 3% of individuals that fall into kind of the celebrity, really famous or, high net wealth individuals. So your organization, the Giving Back Fund, works with these 3% of really high net wealth individuals that want to give, right? And want to, I don't mean to put words in the mouth, but promote others to give, right? Sometimes. But you also help other organizations. Now we're talking nonprofit organizations to help get them funded. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so what we did when we realized that the celebrity market, 97% didn't give their own money, and that we wanted to work with people who were more authentic, we expanded who our target market was. So we do still work with celebrities with that 3%. Fortunately, there's a lot of celebrities, so even the 3% is a lot. But we expanded to work with other regular people with high net worth who aren't celebrities, but they're simply wealthy and want to do philanthropy. We work with corporations, we work with projects, and we work with regular people who just want to do something philanthropic. So now we're a fairly large mix of celebrities and others who all want to do good. So what we did to remedy the fact that all celebrities don't give their own money is work with those who do, and then others in the whole constellation of philanthropy who want to do something good in the world.
Love that. So you've been in the business now for, what did you say, 25 years?
24 and a half years. We'll be 25.
24 and a half. So what a change. What a change you've seen in the world, I'm sure, of philanthropy, also in the world of how people get famous, how people earn money, how people give money, how organizations receive money. So many different things have changed. And certainly in the last, 2 years, 18 months, really, the world has changed pretty significantly as well. And frankly, I don't see any of this slowing down anytime soon. So I'm curious to know or hear from your perspective, what do you see changing in this industry, both positively and negatively, over the next 1 to 2 years?
Well, the biggest change that I've seen in this industry is a change in almost every industry, and that is the impact of the pandemic. It's drastically changed how we do business, and it's really changed how everybody does business. It's put, unfortunately, a lot of nonprofits out of business because you can't do your traditional fundraiser in person. A lot of people have gone to virtual, but you don't raise as much money virtually on events like this. Right. That we for the past 11 years have done the signature philanthropy event at the Super Bowl called Big Game, Big Give. And it's a very high profile event. It's $3,000 a ticket. It's the night before the Super Bowl at the nicest private mansion in the Super Bowl city for 500 people who pay for the right to be there, and all the money goes to charity. And you can't do that during a pandemic.
Right.
So it's changed things for us and for many nonprofits, and it's a lot harder to raise money if you don't have a sort of baked in uh, base of support who will give,
Sure.
even if you don't have the dinner, even if you don't have the event, the golf tournament, whatever you're doing. If you don't have that, if you're really trying to raise money from the public, it's been difficult to do things during the pandemic. In addition to, we've spoken about how now many more people are working from home instead of coming to an office. And so when they say if you do something for 21 straight days, you can break a habit. Well, it's been almost 21 months that we've been battling this pandemic. And so a lot of habits are broken. There's a lot of empty office space out there. And a lot of people have gotten used to, at least in LA, not having to commute on our very crowded roads. And so I think the biggest change in the nonprofit space that I've seen is all the changes that have been brought as a result of the pandemic, which we never would have foreseen before it happened. I mean, it's really changed the world.
Really has. It really has. And I'm very, very curious to see how things continue to evolve over the next 1 to 2 years. I don't even ask the 5 to 10 year question anymore. So, how are we going to get through this next 12 to 24 months and what changes? I agree with everything you're saying. That's a lot of what I've seen on my side too. Organizations are really shifting, pivoting. It's really interesting too. I think as people question, should I start a nonprofit, right? Or should we merge or acquire additional nonprofits to expand in that way? I think it's going to be interesting to see how many combination of businesses or people kind of slowing down the idea or not, right? Usually when people are in need, people want to give and do. So it's all going to be really interesting. So last question I have for you, your organization is just very modern in itself and its structure and how it raises money, the people it works with, the organizations that it helps serve in a number of different ways. I'm just really curious from your perspective as kind of a visionary leader, whether you classify yourself that as or not, but it surely sounds like you are. What advice would you give to other leaders of nonprofits on how to think outside of the box, how to not always default to doing the things that we've always done just for the sake of doing the things that we've always done? Any tips or suggestions there?
Yes, I'll give you the same tip and suggestion that I often do when I speak to young people who want to sort of break in to philanthropy. And that's you can never be successful at anything if you're afraid to cold call. It's one of the hardest things in the world to do because nobody likes to get cold calls and nobody likes to do them. But it's really been the sort of underlying secret to my success. And I believe so strongly that if you want to achieve something in life, you have to be able to, as you said, think outside the box, but also be willing to act outside the box. So when we first met and you told me you were from St. Louis, I told you that one of the very first calls I made in 1997 was to the famous Emmy-winning sportscaster Bob Costas, who then was living in St. Louis. I was looking for somebody to chair my board, and we were going to be an organization that worked with athletes. And so I looked on the Power 100 list, and he was like number 3 on that list. I didn't know him at all. But I just cold called his office and asked if I could come meet him, and flew to St. Louis, and we had lunch, and he ended up becoming my first chairman. Then if you remember the movie Jerry Maguire, it is about a real life person who is the most famous sports agent of all time, and his name is Lee Steinberg. Not Tom Cruise, but Lee Steinberg. And so I cold called Lee Steinberg in Newport Beach, California, and said, you don't know me. I'm just a guy from Boston, but I'd like to talk to you about this new idea I have. And sure enough, he called back. He actually called me back when I was coaching the third base line of my son's Little League game. So because it was Lee Steinberg, I took that call while I was on the third base coaching box, and we started a 25-year friendship. So I could tell you many, many people who over the years I've cold called. And again, it's hard to do because a lot of people don't return your calls, but the ones that do can become very valuable in any success that you might have. And so That's my secret. And that's the advice I would give to somebody. If you're going to start anything, don't be afraid to cold call.
I love that. I love that. And even it's so interesting how so many nonprofit leaders that I have worked with, currently work with, are just afraid to ask anything, whether pick up the phone and call, right? Which is usually you're asking for something, or even if you have an opportunity to ask for support financially or otherwise, there's this just nervousness and anxiety around the ask. And whether it's for profit or nonprofit, whether you've been in business for a little bit or a long time, I absolutely agree. You have to put yourself into those uncomfortable situations and get comfortable with just connecting with people and asking people and sharing what it is you're looking for. And it's always very humbling to me. I've talked with some really significant people in business that with all the criteria, it's always surprising to me when I talk to them that, first of all, they want to talk to me. They're interested and excited about what I'm doing here, but they always ask me, what can I do for you? And that's so surprising to me, because me as a business person, I think I need to do for my clients or I need to do for other people. But when people ask me, that have become mentors and just people I look up to that are much more successful in business than I've certainly been so far, it's really quite surprising to me how much people are willing to help you if you just simply ask. So I think that's a really good tip. Thank you, Marc. So Marc, thanks again for joining us. Last question, if anyone is interested in following you or connecting with you, what is the best way to get in touch with you? Is that through the website, or what is the best platform if people want to follow what you're doing?
Yes, we actually have two websites. We are the proud philanthropy partner and consultant for the entire NFLPA. All players have a little card on it that looks like this, that has our logo and the NFLPA's logo with an 800 number that rings in our office. And so we've built for them a website called Foundation Fundamentals, which has a lot of great information if you're interested in starting a foundation. And then our website, givingback.org, is the best way to reach me and to learn more about the Giving Back Fund.
Okay, going back to Foundation Fundamentals, is that .org, .com,
.org, foundationfundamentals.org.
Awesome. So we'll put that in the show notes. Marc, thank you again so much for joining us. This has been such an interesting conversation for me. For those of you that have not already subscribed to our podcast, you can certainly do that on any major streaming platform. But then also we will put this video, all of our videos for our podcast are actually available on our YouTube channel. So just search for The Charity CFO and you'll be able to find all those episodes there. Thanks, everybody.